Stocks drift lower with the market breadth continuing to remain negative. Industrials, consumer durables and realty are the big drags, while metals and IT eke out some gains.
Amid a slew of big-ticket investments in India's financial sector, Shriram Finance has scheduled a board meet on December 19th to consider a fundraise. The filing follows recent reports of Mitsubishi Financial Group eyeing a stake.
Ola Electric promoter Bhavish Agrawal sells 3.9% in the EV maker for nearly 90 crore rupees to help pare down promoter debt of close to 260 crore and release the pledged shares. The move follows S&P's downgrade of Ola Cabs' parent to CCC.
Rupee recovers nearly 1% from new all-time lows of 91.08 per dollar to hit a high of 90 per dollar. Dealers say a mix of RBI selling and exporters hurrying dollar sales at higher levels helped the rupee recover. Steep fall in crude prices also helping sentiment on rupee.
Good afternoon, you're with us here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormuz Patakia. With me as always, Arundhati Ramanan. Arundhati, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Harbaz. I mean, there's no place to hide on the Lal Street today, right? It's exactly how we were yesterday. We're at the low point of the day. It's red across the screen.
There's some important levels that you have to monitor, and the Nifty currently is below one such important level, and that's the 50-day moving average of 25,789. It continues to hover around those levels, so still not convincingly below it, but the bulls would be hopeful that you still manage a close above that 25,789, which is the 50 DMA level, before you head into the weekly expiry for the Sensex contracts tomorrow. The same is for the broader markets as well. The mid-cap index continues to remain at the lowest point of the day. The Nifty Bank is at the lowest point of the day. The small cap index too, no different. So the advanced decline is in the negative. The broader markets are at the day's low. Banks are not lending any form of support either. Of course, there is some movement in the PSU banks, but nothing else beyond that.
Absolutely. And let's talk about those sectors, right? So markets clearly in the red, but those FMCG stocks, which are seeing some gains yesterday, are actually coming in for some profit booking. Colgate, Nestle India, ITC, all of them seeing some cuts between 1 and 2%. Private banks are also seeing big cuts, as Hormaz pointed out, not lending anything to the Nifty. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, all of them down around 1%. But on the flip side, we've got those PSU names, some green on the screen, doing all right. That index is actually the top sectoral gainer. SBI, PNB and Bank of India all firmly in the green, between 1 and 2% higher. And finally, those metal names also doing really well today. Zinc, Hindalco, Vedanta, all of them gaining nearly 1%.
And just before we move on, just pull up Indian Overseas Bank. That's the only outlier among the PSU banks that are otherwise doing well for themselves. At the lowest point of the day now is Indian Overseas Bank, 5.5% lower now on the stock at 34.63. The OFS for, beg your pardon, OFS for non-retail investors is open today. Will open for retail investors tomorrow. And the issue price or the floor price of the OFS with 34 rupees is almost 16% lower than the price at which they had raised funds earlier through a QIP in March of this year, which was around 40 odd rupees. So a steep discount from the earlier fundraise, and the stock resultantly at the lowest point of the day. The big talking point yesterday was the currency. It remains one of the big talking points today as well. And the currency, contrary to yesterday's sharp down move, has seen some appreciation, and it has recovered nearly 1% from its record lows of 91.08 against the dollar to go above the mark of 91. Now, dealers are saying that a mix of RBI selling and exporters hurrying dollar sales at higher levels has helped the recovery in the currency. Now, they also say that the recovery is only partly due to the Reserve Bank of India. A steep fall in crude oil prices is also helping the sentiment on the currency.
Absolutely. And the other big story of the day is the record foreign inflow into India's financial sector. While overall foreign flows are ebbing, the financial sector has seen inflow of over $7 billion in 2025. Another big investment could be on the cards, with Shriram Finance set to mull a fundraise on the 19th of December, a development which comes after reports suggested that Japan's MUFG is set to pick up stake in the company. Gaurav joins us now with more on the story. Gaurav?
Yes. So the much speculated deal can happen on Friday, and the reason being that now Shriram Finance is going to have a meeting on 19th of December where they will consider fundraising, which also includes QIP. Now, why this is important is that we have already seen some speculation happening around MUFG being interested in buying around 20% stake in Shriram Finance, and even the latest numbers suggest that the valuation could be anywhere between 3.2 to $4 billion. Now, if we consider the higher end of this valuation talks which are going on, it will still be 10% higher than the current market price that we are seeing for Shriram Finance. Now, why this is important is that we have already seen for Shriram Finance, they have enough capital. So, it is not something in the need of capital because they have their capital ratios at around 20%. But with this new capital, the cost of funds are likely to come down. Second is that given that the MUFG will be seen as a strategic buyer, it will also help Shriram Finance in credit re-rating, which will further bring the capital cost of funds down for Shriram Finance. Now, when we look at the stock performance, we have already seen in the last 6 months, the stock has given more than 27% returns. And even if we consider that, still in terms of valuation, it trades at around 2.2 times price to book of FY27 earnings versus the closest peer, which is Cholamandalam, which trades at around 4.1 times. So there is still some further headroom which is left for investors, is what it seems, at least optically. Now, why this is also important is that earlier the company had denied the facts, but during the last conversation with us, management said that there will be many discussions which are going, and there will always be some interested party when we asked about some speculation on merger. So that is something that they had indicated earlier. And given that there is a meeting which is going to happen on Friday, we are hoping to see a big move in terms of news flow. And on back of that, we will definitely watch out on what happens to the stock of Shriram Finance on this Friday.
We'll keep an eye out on Shriram Finance, of course, the board meeting this Friday. Gaurav, thank you for that. Ritu is also here with us, and she will be telling us how foreign investment has picked up in India's financial sector. Ritu.
Well, 2025 is shaping up to be quite the year of foreign capital inflows into the financial sector. So far, in fact, foreign investors have pumped in about $7.5 billion in Indian banks and NBFCs. The largest ever foreign investment, of course, was by Emirates NBD, which acquired a 60% stake in RBL Bank for over $3 billion. And the story could get even bigger if that reported Shriram Finance MUFG deal that Gaurav was talking about goes through, because it's going to surpass all records at an estimated $3.2 billion or even up to $4 billion as per some reports. And that will push the total foreign capital that comes into India in banks and NBFCs this year well past $10 billion. But this year's deals are more than just numbers, because there's quite a few trend shifts we're seeing. For instance, the RBL, Emirates NBD and Samman Capital IHC investments, they mark a shift from minority stake to operational control. The secondary market transactions are also reshaping ownership. For instance, in Yes Bank, SMBC is now the largest foreign shareholder, although not categorized as a promoter. Then you have private equity and sovereign funds. They're also making long-term strategic bets with what we saw with IDFC First Bank and Federal Bank. Now, the investor mix is also quite diverse. There are global banks where you have SMBC, Emirates NBD. There are sovereign and foreign companies such as IHC and ADIA. And then you have private equity institutional funds like Blackstone and Warburg Pincus. What is also striking is the shift from minority stake only to now capital-infused growth. So unlike previous years, the deals this year have been large, they've been strategic, and often promoter-changing as well. And that signals that the financial sector is maturing as a global investment destination. That, of course, is supported by RBI's changing stance on foreign ownership in banks. Now, here's a quick look at the headline deals this year. The largest one, of course, RBL Bank and Emirates NBD for 26,850 crores. Yes Bank, SMBC, another 16,330 crores. Samman Capital IHC, 8,850 crores. Warburg, ADIA, with IDFC First Bank, another 7,500 crores. Federal Bank, Blackstone, about 6,169 crores. And the stock price movement for these, companies is also up anywhere between 8 and 35% in just the last 6 months. The likes of RBL, of course, seeing the highest gains. Altogether, we're talking about 65,700 crores in foreign money flowing into Indian banks and NBFCs this year, without even counting the Shriram deal. And we've not seen the last of it just yet, Hormaz.
Absolutely, Ritu. Thank you so much for taking us through those details. But from the banking space to the auto sector, Tata Sierra, the latest launch from the Tata stable, has received a bumper response from buyers, with over 70,000 bookings received since bookings opened yesterday. Parikshit Luthra is here with all of those details. Parikshit?
Clearly, Tata Motors is hoping that the Sierra SUV will create excitement in the market and boost their sales in 2026 and FY27 as well. Currently, their monthly run rate or sales stand at about 60,000 units. And industry sources say the Sierra SUV with petrol and diesel options could increase their sales anywhere in the range of 8,000 to 10,000 units as well. And this, according to sources, is also the production plan of the company. Having said that, the bookings began yesterday and 70,000 bookings have come by so far. Most of the bookings, we are told, are for the mid to top variant. The price range for the Sierra SUV is between 11.5 lakhs for the starting variant ex-showroom, and it goes all the way up to 22 lakhs ex-showroom for the top variant. Let's see what kind of excitement it creates in the market, in the SUV market in the months to come. But there will also be an electric variant of the Sierra that will be launched by Tata Motors in H1 of FY27. The deliveries of the petrol and diesel models, we're told, will begin sometime in the middle of January next year.
Parikshit, thank you for that update there. Now, sources are telling CNBC-TV18 that the SEBI will be deliberating mutual fund expense ratios today. Yash is joining in with more on this. Yash.
Parmas, so of course today is that all-important SEBI's board meeting, and what we've been given to understand is that the market regulator SEBI will be taking up the proposal of mutual fund total expense ratio in today's board meeting itself. What we've been given to understand is that market regulator SEBI is likely to take up the revision in the mutual fund expense ratio as it was proposed in the consultation paper itself. Also, market regulator SEBI is expected to discuss the feedback which came from the stakeholders on the consultation paper around mutual fund TER as it was received by the market regulator SEBI. Also, as far as the original consultation paper is concerned and the feedback which was received from stakeholders, we are given to understand that if at all any changes are presented to the consultation paper, they would be very minor in nature. Just to put some context in terms of what was proposed in the consultation paper, SEBI had proposed reducing mutual fund expenses across tiers, across categories of funds. For the first 500 crore of AUM, it was proposed that TER should be reduced to 2.1% from 2.25%. Next 250 crore, it was proposed to be reduced to 1.9% from 2%. Next 1250 crore, it was proposed to be reduced to 1.6% from 1.75%, and so on and so forth. About 15 basis points reduction was proposed in almost every category in terms of size as far as the mutual fund AUM itself is concerned. Market regulator SEBI had also proposed to revise the cap on brokerage for cash market transactions to 2 basis points from about 12 basis points, and for derivative market transactions to 1 basis point from 5 basis points.
All right, Yash, many thanks for those details. But on that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Business Lunch. Indigo is in focus today as the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Transport, Tourism and Culture is scheduled to meet today. The committee will quiz Indigo and DGCA officials and examine the massive operational crisis. And staying on with Indigo, the airline has overtaken Air India Group in international passenger traffic in July-September. Shivani Bazars joins us now with all of these details. Shivani?
But yes, Indigo has overtaken the Air India Group to become India's largest airline on international routes by passenger numbers. Now, according to DGCA data, Indigo carried 41.4 lakh international passengers in the July to September quarter, narrowly ahead of the Air India Group, which carried 41 lakh passengers in the same time. This marks a clear turnaround from the earlier this year numbers when Air India was still firmly in the lead. In the January to March quarter, DGCA says Air India Group flew 45.5 lakh passengers compared to Indigo's 39.3 lakh. That gap has narrowed in April to June and then, of course, further narrowed, and Indigo has taken over and moved ahead in the September quarter. Now, this shift comes in the aftermath of the June 12th crash of Air India's flight AI-171, a Dreamliner accident that killed 260 people in Ahmedabad. In the weeks following that crash, Air India cut international capacity by around 15%, particularly on long-haul routes, as it undertook safety reviews and saw a brief dip in passenger confidence as well. Indigo, meanwhile, maintained capacity and frequencies on high international routes, allowing it to capture a larger share of the outbound and inbound traffic. And despite the change in passenger volumes, the Air India Group still operates a wider international network, flying to around 48 overseas destinations compared to Indigo's 44 international destinations. Back to you.
Shivani, thank you for that update there. Meanwhile, the fog across the National Capital Region continues to disrupt flight services at the Delhi airport. At least 10 flights have been cancelled in Delhi this morning. We'll take a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Now, we have been talking about the bull run in gold prices all through the year, but what's also having a very golden run is silver. The prices hit a record high yet again today, crossing the $66 an ounce mark. Manisha is here to tell us more on that. Manisha.
Well, silver is on a tear where we have seen all-time highs yet again coming into the market today. We've broken 65 and we've also breached 66 on the higher side now. And with that, we are up by nearly 30% in the last 1 month for silver. And when you talk about 2025, it's a 127% of a gain. The gains have come in on the back of one, shortage of silver, a deficit that could continue for a 6th straight year in 2026. It also has been about the dislocation of silver where it's not freely moving between countries. And then the third thing is about speculative money, a lot of investment, physical buying, ETF buying. Silver has had it all in this year. Silver also is taking support from the fact that the dollar index is now trading at a multi-month lows, leading to buying into more tangible commodities. It has been about safe haven buying, the geopolitics, the kind of debt that the Western world seems to be holding on. That has led to a lot of buying come in for the precious metal prices. Well, from here on, the brokers and the banks tell us that on the higher side, $70 an ounce is a possibility within this year as well. I mean, we are just $3 to $4 away from that, but a long due correction now really seems to be in the coming. No fresh longs should be taken here. Shots absolutely should not be created because the way the silver is reacting right now. But $60 an ounce seems to be a support right now. For the Indian markets, we are holding well above 2 lakh rupees a kg right now, but the Indians are not buying. So silver in the Indian market is trading at a discount right now, vis-a-vis those premiums that we saw in the month of October. So the buying seems to have slowed down. So has been the case with the volumes as well. But the price moves are quite exaggerated. It's going to be important to see on what Bank of Japan, Bank of England and ECB do in this month to understand on how silver will react before we call curtains to this year.
Right, Manisha, many thanks for those details. But with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Business Lunch from Hormaz and me. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.